Need a new build of Windows 10.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not even on the new build of Windows 10. I can't get it.
That's it. Get him off the call. I've just seen a tweet actually from Phil Spencer, kind of following on from what we were talking about last week about whether or not there was a market for an expensive Xbox. And apparently they've just sold their 1 millionth Xbox Elite controller. And I remember when that launched, people went, "Oh, people won't pay that for a controller."
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, just seen that. Yeah. Right. Well, everything's working. Stream's on. So, Jason, good evening.
Good evening.
And
How are you?
welcome back to our stranger.
Yes, that's me. I'm Gary.
It's Gary, he's back.
Yeah, I just feel actually quite odd to be back on the show. I've been away for a few weeks.
We had a referendum. We decided to bring Gary back.
Yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't unanimous. I can't tell you which way we went though.
50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. Yeah. Yes, it's good to have you back. So, since you last been on the show, I've been in Le Mans. We've had about 50 builds. We've got release dates. We
may or may not have release dates.
Yes, well, we'll talk about that. Yeah, so it's been a busy time. So
yes, I've thoroughly lost the competition.
Yes, you have lost the competition. I did actually. I was going to add up the number of builds today, and then I sort of just got distracted and never finished adding it up. So
I blame that brilliant Donna Sarka.
Well, she certainly got managed to get
the new hustle
builds out, and some of the bits and pieces to talk about as well. Some more experiences with the Surface Pro 4 that I've been testing. I found the fix for Bluetooth issues with my Android phone. And you'd be interested to see what it is. So, yeah, we've got quite a few things. We've got, like I said, builds to talk about as well, and new apps as well. And yeah, been quite a busy few weeks. We'll try and catch up, Gary. Although you weren't here on the recordings, you were here anyway with the bonus interviews as well.
Indeed, yes, and the old NetAtmo stuff.
Yeah,
which I have to say, I'm playing with that camera and the tags. It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it really works very well. The speed of face recognition is amazing.
And I've been playing with a Netgear. I think it's called Arlo.
Yes, the Arlo stuff's brilliant.
Yeah, and I've got one set up downstairs, and I've been testing it over the weekend, and I left it plugged in. So this is a 1080p security camera.
Yep.
That's wireless. It's got audio in it as well, and you just plug it into a main socket with a little adapter, and then just leave it. So I set it up, and I've been pretty impressed with it. It's got a nice app that goes with it, as well as the website, and it's got supports geofencing.
Yeah. So is that the one which has the central hub?
This is just a standalone unit. You just plug it straight in. Yeah, you don't need a hub.
So there's I know there's several varieties of them.
Yeah.
Because they also do purely battery efficient ones, which are like true wireless ones you can leave outside.
Yeah.
For a while. So
yeah, this is you plug in, but the geofencing works really well. So what it does, you tell it where when you set it up, you say I want to geofence. So when it knows you're home, it turns the camera off.
Yeah.
All the notifications off anyway, and recording. And then when you leave the house, it automatically puts them back on, which is quite funny because I'm out during the work and the kids come in. It sets the motion sensors off and the audio sensors off. And it was quite funny because they came home tonight and they got wet coming home from school, and they rang me up to say they got really wet and they were going to ask me something. So I put the camera on and I could see how wet they were, but it's really good quality, and you can see, it records, just the free version records 7 days worth of motion sensing. So you got the
So I guess that and the NetAtmo are very competitive things.
Yeah.
I think I do like the face recognition on NetAtmo because you can actually just run it so that basically it's really quick. I walk in the door and it says "Hello, Gary" from the face recognition, which is quite amazing.
Yeah, that's quite good. I think what else did. It's got a night mode as well, which works well.
Yeah, so I think they're definitely horses for courses now. I do like the idea of the battery powered Arlos as well. So, I look forward to your review on those.
Yeah. So it's got a microphone on it, or a speaker on it, I should say. Yeah. So from your phone, or you can speak, and it comes through the camera. So, as the kids come back, I say, "Hey, put that back. Put that food away." It's funny stuff. In fact, they came home and had some, I think they had some ice cream or something. So they didn't say anything. Then when I got in, I said, "Do you enjoy your ice cream today?" They were, "What?" We forgot the camera was there because I did tell them. But, right. So what else? We'll talk about builds and stuff. Oh, I'll just tell you about that thing I found the culprit with the Bluetooth. Do you remember I was saying I was having Bluetooth issues with the Nexus 6P in the car?
Yes, I remember you saying.
Yeah, it turns out it's a Microsoft band. And so what I did is I turned the Bluetooth off on the Microsoft band. In fact, what I did, I turned it off in the end and paired it back to my Lumia. So it was just paired with the Lumia and the Android Wear is on that I've been wearing on, just paired to the phone. And the Bluetooth issues have stopped. And then I switched it back today, and the Bluetooth issues have come back again. So if anybody's having that problem.
So do you think that's actually the band, or is it just the fact you've got multiple Bluetooth stuff attached?
Well, it's difficult to say. Although I have already got multiple Bluetooth stuff because I've got a couple of wireless headsets that I've been testing out as well. So I don't really know, but it stopped when I disconnected the band, and as soon as I put the band on, it reoccurred again. So I have got another little band thing to try, and a really cheap one. So I'll try that and see how that affects it as well. But I also did notice, and apparently this is a known issue, there's a bit of a battery drain issue with the Microsoft Health app as well.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, so that's helped the battery life on the Nexus by moving that back to Lumia. So let's talk builds now first. So Jason and I recorded last week, and we had I think we had 4 builds to talk about last week.
Well, you did have the bug bash Nick last week, so I guess that generated. I thought it was interesting that we actually got a lot of those fixed releases during the bug bash, because I don't remember getting that many last time they did it.
No, I think you're right. The frequency of builds, although last time as we got close to the release date, they did get more builds, but I think even this time the builds have come in thicker and faster than ever.
Yes, yeah, definitely have.
So as we talked last week, we had 14.371, and then on Thursday night they released 14.372 for both PC and mobile.
Yeah. So I've been stuck on 14.367. I can't get beyond that, which is ridiculous.
So are you having an issue where it doesn't see the build, or it only half downloads it?
It doesn't see the build.
I did have that once, didn't I? And I had to do a rollback, and then once I did the rollback, it then saw the next one.
But I can't do the rollback because it says my previous version doesn't exist.
Right.
so we're stuck.
I guess
I'll have to wait for some ISOs to turn up, I think.
Well, you can have an ISO but that'll take you back one, won't it? I think 14.366 has been released as an ISO.
Yeah, so maybe that will work. Maybe I can do that and try it.
Have you tried opting out of the Insider Preview program and then going back in?
Actually, I was just thinking whether to try that. So that may be my next step.
Yeah, because I know they have had some build detection issues, particularly I think on the build that you're on. I think I've seen a number of people, which I think they've obviously fixed. The alternative is if you've got a machine that will download it, if you use something like Nlight, you can actually build an ISO from the downloaded temporary folder.
Yeah, I've done that before. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's one thing to try.
Yeah. I haven't, to be honest, I've been so busy the last couple of weeks doing talks and things that I haven't really had a chance. but yeah, I will have a play.
Yeah,
I did. Go ahead, Jay. Go on.
No, I was going to say, I know with the mobile build, the last couple of releases have had that mention of battery life with I think it's the 830 Icon and 930, I think it is.
And the 1520.
So yeah, but I have to say I've not noticed anything significant. I mean, I generally leave it on charge on a wireless pad when I get home from work and then take it off and take it up to bed, and it's still each morning it's been around about between 85 and 90%, which is what I expect. So I can't say I've noticed anything particular. It might be that more just in general use that it's draining quicker than they would like. But certainly in standby, it's been no problem for me.
I've noticed a few people on Twitter mention it. So again, it's one of those things. Perhaps doesn't happen to everybody and all the time. There's different scenarios that affect it.
Yeah, the one thing I did have this morning, and it wasn't until a few hours later that it dawned on me what it was. But this morning I had the Wi-Fi dropout issue. I had to actually restart the phone to get Wi-Fi working again.
It's funny. This my 950 has been absolutely rock solid, and I've still got a SIM card in there, and I'm still using it. But yeah, it's been working really good. I have noticed a problem with the PCs though. And at first I thought it was maybe just an installation problem or something, but this is where the machines have hibernated. I presume it's like a hibernation, isn't it? And then I press the power button to wake them, and they stick on the manufacturer logo. Now, at first I thought it was just my Encore 8, which sticks on the Toshiba logo, but then it did it with my Lynx 7, and that's now, that sticks on the Toshiba logo. I'm just had it just now with the Surface Pro 3, which sticks on the Surface logo. And the only way to get them to do anything is to hold the power button down until it goes off and then power it back on. And the Lynx and the Encore going through the whole startup cycle, but I just noticed when I did it at the Surface, that didn't go. That did resume. So I'm not quite sure. Holding the power button down is a different power option. I expected you holding it down until the logo disappears and then turn it back on would actually do a hard power cycle, but it doesn't seem to be the case. It's resumed from where it left off with all the apps open and everything.
That's odd.
But I'll fire one of these up now and see. But it's obviously an issue with the build because it's doing it on all three devices, and it's not. See, I just switched this on now and it's fine. So, but it seems to be when they've been off for a fair amount of time and they've gone into the sort of whatever the lowest power stages, but I've not seen it mentioned as a known issue yet.
Yeah, no, I've not seen anything like that. But a bit of a break exclusive. Donna Sark has just asked Paul Thurrott if he's travelling today.
Yeah, that usually means a build's on its way.
Yes, that's what I suspect. But unfortunately, she said no, not until tomorrow. So I don't know if she'll hold off.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
The way the builds come out, they're coming out later, aren't they, in the evening as well?
Yeah, well, Donna seems to work 24 hours a day, so I think that might have something to do with it. Yeah, she's definitely got, I think, 100% more energy than Gabe had.
Yeah, it's, I think when I was traveling, I think it was about 4 a.m. and I noticed a new build came out. Huh? This is early, but of course it's late, isn't it? Where they're working late. Yeah,
and also I know Donna's been traveling around doing the Hollow Hacks stuff, so I think sometimes she's in different time zones when she releases them. So I think it depends when, but certainly, I mean, these two builds, both mobile and desktop, for me, I mean, apart from the known issues as I mentioned with the Wi-Fi on my mobile, but these are pretty rock solid. We've got an issue with the Skype app. I've got my notifications turned off so I don't keep crashing out the call like I did last week. I think it took about 5 times to record the whole podcast, didn't it, Ian?
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, and then I think it was.
I was talking to myself about something. I think it was a Surface for ages.
Yeah. I think it was Aaron on Twitter mentioned that it was notifications from Skype, and he is quite right. If you turn them off, it stops crashing Explorer. So we don't seem to be getting that regular updates to the Skype app. I thought we'd be getting quite regular updates to it, and we still don't have a mobile build, do we?
No, that's right. No, you still got the traditional Skype app, haven't you, on the.
Yeah.
It's the Windows Phone 8.1 app, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, so I would expect that's going to come along pretty soon if they want to get that out for release. But certainly, I mean, we're certainly hurtling along. The known issues are getting smaller and smaller. I think, as you mentioned, we might have a release date leaked. I'm still waiting for that build to come down that doesn't have the watermark, because that's always been a good indicator.
Yeah, I was just say for the latest build that we're talking about then is 14372, and the known issues were just 3 on this one, weren't they? The PC anyway. So when you click on the network flyout, it doesn't open settings as it should do.
Yes, yeah, which I've noticed actually quite a few things. Actually, you tap on the battery indicator and go to click on power and sleep settings. It's almost I think it's an issue that affects all the notification icons.
Yeah, it just doesn't open, and I think there was an issue with the Evernote Web Clipper, which was a new extension anyway, and there was an issue with the developer mode as well. So really down to those 3 known issues.
I know this is going back a bit, but when did the flight mode come onto that network setting?
Oh, well, I think it's always been there, hasn't it?
don't remember being there before. I thought it was only ever on the notification thing, not on the network.
I tell you what, I've got a RTM or whatever November or 1511 build, and the notification when you click on the network one, it says airplane mode and not flight mode.
Ah.
Now, is that a language?
I mean, see, it doesn't always come up. That's what puzzles me. It seems to come up sometimes on this latest build I've got. So that just puzzled me because I saw it earlier today and I thought, oh, I don't remember seeing that before. And then I tried it later and it wasn't there. And then I tried it again just now and it was there. And now it's gone again.
Yeah, airplane. It comes up airplane mode if you're in US English, and if you're in UK English, it's called flight mode.
Yeah. Or it doesn't come up at all because I've now got it not coming up at all. But about 30 seconds ago, it was coming up. Very strange. I mean, you can always get to it from the notification center, but it does kind of make sense to have it on the network icon.
Yeah. I think one of the previous builds, so I had problems with that whole panel.
Yeah.
Showing networks and things, but it has been working a lot better. So yeah, that node issue list nice and small, and the mobile one, Jason, you've already mentioned the battery issue and the Wi-Fi disconnection issues. So that leads to the question really is when they do release the anniversary one, which we'll talk about the date later, but the PC one is the main one I'm thinking of. Do you think they'll release the phone at the same time, or do you think that'll be a staggered release like we had last year?
There's no reason why they did have to release both at the same time.
I would expect with the builds getting released in lockstep, pretty much, I'd expect them to be out at the same time.
I mean, you could certainly argue both ways. I just don't think they have to.
No, you're right.
If they found a mobile bug or something like that they needed to fix, they could hold that back, and the desktop was the most important one to get out there.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether or not. I think what we'll do is probably get to a point where they both kind of releasing quotes versions come out to insiders, and then maybe they'll get different cumulative updates. So they could kind of class a release build as not necessarily the one that ends up going out to the public.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good. Talk about build numbers then. And releases. So what Microsoft today accidentally let slip the date of the RTM of whatever or whatever we're going to call. What's the term we're going to use? Release, the cutoff, the public availability.
Anniversary update build.
That's what we're going to call it.
That's what they're calling it.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I still class it as a release. It's a kind of base build of a version of Windows, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a release. But if you look at if we look at the Insiders program, and you think about what the various options are on there, they talk about releases. So preview release. So I think it's a release build, but it's not a release candidate as such because it's a build. It's going.
Yeah, Richard Hay and I had a good humorous conversation on Twitter today, and he went for the general availability. That was his label.
Yeah. I guess that's not an unreasonable way to say it.
So if Microsoft follow the pattern that they did last time, is we'll get a release build that doesn't have the watermark, as we said before, and then they'll just patch that, won't we, up until the date that hits Windows Update for non-insiders.
Yeah. Because I'm just trying to think, because the original, what was it, 105.86, that was .0, I think, when it hit us, and then kind of very quickly went up to, I think it was 100 or something. I think it might have even been .117, I think, was the one that actually came out on the 29th of July. So I fully expect the same thing to happen. Once they've get to that point where they know any outstanding issues don't require a full build, they just require a cumulative update, kind of a forward fix essentially, then I think that will be the general availability baseline. And
what they kind of let slip today through the Microsoft News Center, and I've got an RSS feed set up for this, so I actually saw it come up in the RSS feed, and is they said Windows 10 anniversary update available August 2nd, but the blog post had no text with it, and within 15-20 minutes it'd actually been taken down completely. So whether that was someone keen with the finger, over keen with the finger and hit publish by accident, or they were just creating the placeholder blog post and just putting the dates in there anyway. But it does seem to make sense. August 2nd is almost a year to the date of the release, wasn't it? Was it 27th or 28th? 27th.
It was the 29th.
29th, was it, when we had that party in London?
So, and I think the 29th is an odd date, isn't it, if I remember rightly? Let me just have a quick look. I think I think it might even be a Saturday. No, 29th is a Friday. So I think it makes sense for them to wait for the following week.
Yeah, and it's a Tuesday, isn't it? I think the 2nd.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, certainly, we're certainly not in a position where we're discussing going, oh, is this thing really going to be ready? And I think we were with the original release of Windows 10. I think we were all quite nervous in the weeks leading up to it being ready, and then we got those quick succession of builds, and the quality just suddenly rose out of nowhere. Whereas I think this time we're in a very different situation where, with the frequency of builds and the bug bashes, that it already feels like this is ready for daily use, and just something like a click in the network flyout. That's I use the term loosely, but that's an easy fix. It's so I think we're certainly getting close, and whether or not they could even bring that date forward, we'll see.
And the 10240 was released on July 16th, I think, wasn't it, last year?
Yeah,
to insiders. So, and then it came out the day before on Windows Update, something like that. Depending on.
If I remember rightly, it had started downloading. I mean, it was difficult. It was difficult for us because we'd already got upgraded to it. But I remember, I think with my other PCs, that it had started to download. And I think Ian, you had a machine, didn't you, where you were trying to run setup, and it said that, and it wouldn't actually start the process, but it had pre-downloaded all the files. So yeah, I think that if I'm right, the November release was also, we kind of got the what would be the general availability version kind of 2 weeks before as well. So I think certainly, I mean, we're almost in July now, aren't we? So I would certainly be thinking that we'll be getting probably the final build around about maybe the 14th.
Yeah, I think so. And
13th, 14th. So I think maybe definitely by the looks of it, another build this week, maybe even a second build. And then maybe next week or the week after, we'll maybe get another flurry of builds, and one of those will hopefully be the GA release. Yeah,
well, we could have it, and I think this is a really nice upgrade. And in fact, I think what I will do is I'll put together a video comparison between the two of them, because I haven't kind of done that up to now. We've just had the incremental build videos that I've done with all the changes, and we're getting up to the these latest hands-on videos that I've been doing have been more about really documenting it rather than really show off new features, because there hasn't been a lot to show. But the videos have got shorter as we've progressed. But there is actually a lot of changes, isn't there, between the November update from last year and this build?
Yes, yeah. I mean, some really nice improvements. Obviously, the most obvious ones, things like Edge extensions. But for me, it's the new version of the start menu and the start experience, to use Ed Bott's phrase, which I'm really pleased about. I mean, I haven't gone back from when I switched on full screen start. I have not gone back even in non-tablet mode, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I like I've said on the show previously, I miss the features really, especially some of the extensions in Edge, which I like, and the new start menu, and just a few little things here and there that just make it a much more polished experience. And like I said, I've been testing the Surface Pro 4, which is on the standard release, and I miss some of the features of the new build.
Yeah, you do. They do. It does feel like taking a step back, doesn't it? When you come off there, which is good. That's what you want it to feel like.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, then there's the new the Skype Universal app, which is coming. There's the messaging sync, which is really useful.
Yeah.
And I think what else? I guess the other thing not to overlook, one of the biggest major features is the inking, the whole inking experience.
Yeah, which I really do like. It's kind of maybe used the pen again, which is a good sign. I haven't really used the Surface Pro pen frequently recently, but I started to use it again, and even though OneNote works, regardless, I've suddenly found myself using OneNote again with the pen in meetings and things. It's reminded me of how good the pen experience is. Holiday Boy in the chat room saying, weren't build numbers divisible by 16? That I think that did used to be the case, but I think that's really the case anymore, isn't it? Although we had 10240, and what was the one after that? 1512, wasn't it?
10586.
586, that's right.
Yeah.
So maybe,
I think Gary said something about that once, I think.
Yes, yeah, historic reasons. So I'm not sure it does still apply, but I'll have to check up on that. It makes sense.
They used to like having a big leap, didn't they, between build numbers? So you'd have the RTM and the release candidate or whatever.
Yeah, there used to be. Well, it used to be to do with their release control system as well, how it worked. But I can't remember exactly. I did look all this up at one stage. If you go back a few podcasts, you might actually find me talking about it. But I remember what I said. Why I actually looked up at the time, but it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But there was a definitive reason for it. A technical reason. I'm not sure that would still apply because they've changed the whole release management system now.
I think you'll find it was on a show number that's divisible by 16.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, go back through it. If anybody finds it, I'll send you a book. I'll send you a signed book if you manage to find that, because you'll be a better person than me.
You haven't got a book, have you, Ian?
Yeah, we've got a book actually.
Yeah,
We've mentioned that. We've not mentioned that for ages.
No. Because I wondered about the whole entertainment apps. If you got something that could help with that, would be great.
Yes,
Yeah,
you should have a look at that.
Yeah, entertainment apps on the go, perhaps.
Yeah.
Would that help? I mean, with Windows 10.
Yeah.
There's a few things that need updating in it now.
I was going to say, because all the Groove curated playlist is something that they're better.
Well, one thing that we don't need to update is the Groove app on iOS and Android, because that is exactly the same version and hasn't been touched since we wrote the book.
Yeah. Which is kind of sad, really.
Well, this is one of the things I was saying over the last couple of shows going away. Since I've been using that 6P, I would have been if the Groove Music app had been the same app on Android, then I would have just carried on using it. But it's not, and it's a very poor relation to the Windows version, unlike all the other Microsoft apps that they have on cross-platform. So much so that I just using my music on Google Play. But I like the features of Groove better, and I would go back to Groove if they released a new version. And I did hear rumors that they were planning an overhaul, but it's really due. I don't think the app's been touched for months.
No, and it would actually make sense it hadn't been touched in the way that was developed originally, because if you remember, the original Groove app wasn't a UWP app on, and there was actually a web app being used on Windows for quite a long while. So the mobile apps were very separate for each of the platforms, and I think now that you would consider they would take the same approach as the Health app has, and create a Xamarin project and bung those bits in and actually start taking some of the shared code across. So hopefully we'll see something, but that might take a while to come. I
think so, but I think that would make people use the Apple the service in general a lot more if it's available, because we've got to face facts that most consumers are on a combination like me now with a Windows PC and not an Android
or an iPhone,
or an iPhone,
yeah.
And I almost got Jason to admit he would get an iPhone last week.
Yeah, I got you with that one.
Talking about Windows phones, have you seen I've seen the Lumia 950 at sub £300 on quite a few sites this week.
The 950s got quite cheap now.
Yeah, and especially since that offer, which runs out the end of this week or on the 30th, to get this display dock is still running at the moment. So you get display dock and Office 365 and a phone for £300. Less than 200.
Yeah, I noticed that I got the email about the display dock, so I think that's a good deal. I think you've got to be pretty much sort of happy to stay on and really into the Windows ecosystem to do that. But for enterprise especially, I think it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, or anybody who still wants to stay in the Windows sphere and hasn't found a decent phone to do so. Yes, we might be worth investing in that.
Yeah, because that's one of the discussions we had, really, Jason, wasn't it? That what do you do when the phone that you've got now reaches end of life?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm still hoping to stick with one more hardware cycle. Still waiting to see what the Surface phone, because I'd still quite like a fingerprint reader, which I know the HP Elite X3 has. Which that was all. I mean, that's with the anniversary update. The Windows 10 Mobile supports that. I like the iris recognition. I just don't particularly want to use it as my authorization for contactless payment. I think I just feel so conscious about kind of holding my phone in front of my face, whereas a fingerprint reader is quite, you can do that quite subtly.
Yeah, it's discreet, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
particularly, I don't want to be in a store trying to pay for something, trying to get the phone to recognise my face.
and really, having used both, I think that's what I said last week, is the iris scanner works half the time, the fingerprint reader works all the time.
Yeah, I think iris scanner works almost perfectly for me on desktop.
Yes.
With the real sense, but on the phone, it's not so effective, and it certainly doesn't like my glasses. I think it's because they're bifocal or very focal, and that seems to be a problem. It seems to be where it catches me.
Yeah. The other problem I have with the iris scanner, although I know it's not a true camera, but if you work in an environment where you're not allowed to use phones on cameras on phones rather, it's it becomes useless.
I much prefer the fingerprint reader, and that's what I've sort of got used to that now, and it's a much better experience than the iris scanner on the phone. And I've been using the tap to pay with it, and it's really a really nice experience. And I've got it's very easy transition into using this Nexus, I've got to say.
I mean, I would be really tempted by the X3 as my next Windows phone or Windows 10 mobile device. But the two things that really put me off it is, one, the size of the screen, because it is a more business orientated device, and also as a knock-on effect of that, it obviously hasn't really got the camera technology in it that a consumer grade phone would have.
Yeah.
And of course, it's considerable investment still, isn't it? And in the back of your mind, you got to be thinking, is it the right device for me? Am I going to spend this money and then have to spend again because of platform issues? And I think that's really what's hit consumers, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's, with the kind of market share of Windows 10 mobile and Windows Phone kind of dwindling with the lack of devices, it is going to become even harder to really convince developers to create apps for the platform. I know they can. I know Windows 10 is building in numbers. Maybe we'll get an update on deployments with when the anniversary update gets announced. So that is another, obviously a big target for developers. But the problem is for companies like Sonos, or I know there is a Spotify app for Windows Phone, but for those kind of things, those places where they've already got desktop apps which can be installed on desktop, there's no real desire for them to translate that across into a UWP.
Yeah, I think that is an issue. But then, we still are getting apps. I noticed, I think it was this week or end of last week, wasn't it? Roku released a new UWP app.
Yep.
But it's where it makes sense on PCs. I think they're releasing them, and then Microsoft's strategy is that the universal apps, so that the developer like Roku will create a PC app, and then as almost a side effect, you get the phone app for free.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also obviously with the anniversary update coming to the Xbox One, that might be another pull. It's having a UWP Sonos app that runs across phone, mobile, desktop, and Xbox. Then there's a target market there. I don't think they've ever talked numbers for the Xbox One, but it certainly must have sold in the millions.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, there is a pull there. I think hopefully that'll generate some issues, especially for the media type apps.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more media apps coming.
Yeah, I know that people like MB and things want to get those apps out there already, and a side effect would that be that would be their mobile app as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I did notice as well that the Android apps tend to be a little bit more polished because they're obviously getting more time because they get more more resources to them. And in some cases, like the Sonos app, is actually is a really nice app, and it's a lot better experience in many respects than the desktop app on the PC, because that is getting a bit old. It's in itself. And on things like the other issues, of course, things like the Arlo security camera I was talking about, Android, iOS only, or the browser.
Yes. So the NetAtmo welcome one, that's although they've in the past supported Windows, they haven't done so for the camera.
Yeah, it is unfortunately. While we're in this sort of unsure state at the moment, aren't we? Where they perhaps back off on and return to Windows 10 Mobile with enterprise features, maybe next year, and new hardware.
Yeah.
Talking about hardware, this is not particularly new hardware, but as I mentioned last week, I've been testing the Surface Pro 4 for a review, and I've got to say, I really like it. Jason, you asked me about the heat, the temperature. I didn't edit last week's podcast on it because it wasn't installed, so I'll edit this week's on there. But I put Lightroom on there, Adobe Lightroom on there, and which is quite a heavyweight app, and Photoshop on there. I did some Photoshopping with photos, and you don't hear the hiss the same.
Right.
It got warm, but not as hot, and it's not the noticeable hiss, which I do hear quite a bit on my Surface Pro 3. So I think the cooling is much better.
Yeah, was the heat kind of more distributed as well?
Yes, it felt that way. Yeah, I mean, I'll know for sure when I do the podcast, because when I finish the editing and I do the mix down, that takes a couple of minutes for it to mix down, and it hisses during that. And so we'll see whether that's the case. But also occasionally, I'll just hear the Surface Pro 3 hiss for no reason. It's usually just something on a web page or something that's taking a bit of processor, and I haven't noticed that. So the whole thing feels faster, and it's the same. Well, it's an i5 processor, so it's a later generation, but essentially the same kind of spec. But it does feel faster, and it definitely runs cooler.
Yeah, and the other thing I noticed on the Windows Store, you can now pre-order. Well, I say pre-order, I think it's releases in 2 days. The 1 terabyte models of the Pro 4 and the Surface Book. So, considering there's kind of rumors of the Surface 3 winding down in production, and you just think maybe the Surface Pro 4 would be following a similar line, given that there must be a Pro 5 coming relatively soon. But certainly, it's finally made its way across the pond to us Brits.
Yeah, we'll talk about Surface 3 in a minute, actually. Just on that Surface Pro 4 as well, I know I mentioned last week, but the Windows Hello, like Gary says, the desktop version does work really well. A lot faster than the phone, and the way that you generally have the tablet in front of you, it just seems to work better. It's not quite so good in portrait mode, but in landscape mode, it works really well, and very, very fast to get it to start up. So I've been impressed with that. I also noticed there's no Windows key. I know I've probably mentioned this when I did the initial post, but I've sort of forgotten about it. And it seems a shame, but that the days of the Windows key have gone now.
Yeah, because
Windows button, I should say.
Yeah, it has the slightly smaller bevel, doesn't it? Yeah. I think I'm trying to think. Really, it's probably one of those things. I think I don't use it very often, but I'll probably do if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
I actually do think you use it less than Windows 10.
Oh, by a long way, because the key's there all the time. Yeah, I think Windows 8 is virtually impossible to use without the Windows key. I remember that was my main criticism of the Lynx 7, was the position of the Windows key. It was a real pain to move up to the top all the time. But you don't, of course, I don't even notice that now with Windows 10.
Yeah, there were a few Windows key combination key shortcuts which I used to use, but I seem to have unlearned them.
The other thing I'll say about the Surface Pro 4 as well, I know this is old news for a lot of people who've probably had one for almost 12 months, isn't it now? But the keyboard is really nice. The new type cover. Yeah, that glass trackpad is a lot nicer.
Talking about things which aren't almost a year old, I got a chance to play with a Huawei MateBook when I was traveling, which is a very nice bit of kit, I thought.
Oh, that's the new sort of tablet PC kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like a Surface, it's probably a bit like a Surface 3 actually. So talking about something which is disappearing, something new. It's got it's a Core M processor, so it's a lot of people saying, well, it's not much better than Atom, but it did seem to be. I like the industrial design on it. For Huawei seem to have been putting a lot of effort into industrial design recently. Their new phone, their Android phones are quite stylish, and this is really stylish. The bezel is, compared to the Samsung Surface clone, as I like to call them, that it has such a small bezel.
And what's the kickstand? What's the kickstand like?
So it's one of these fold under kickstands. I don't
Right.
really like the kickstand that much, but the keyboard's actually quite nice to use. So, and touch sensitivity is good, and the screen itself is good. The screen isn't quite as bright as the Samsung, but it's still very, very good. Good resolution on it, and they all seem really responsive. Probably a bit more responsive than the Surface 3 is. I guess it's obviously a different class of processor, but there's sort of various models of them as well. Yeah, it seemed a nice bit of kit, and you can get an optional pen for it as well. So,
and price range, is it what compared to the Surface?
I'm not sure what they've. I don't know if they've announced pricing for the UK market yet. And I'm just trying to look it up actually, because I don't know if I actually wrote down what the prices were when I was out and about. Let's see if I can find out. But yeah, so it certainly seemed it was similar pricing. It was certainly less pricing than the Galaxy was. I got no, it doesn't actually give me prices then. I will try and find them before the end of the show.
You mentioned there about the Surface Pro 3. So it seems that the Surface Pro 3 is out of production now.
Is that the Surface Pro 3 or Surface 3?
Sorry, Surface 3. Get it right. Surface Pro 3 is in fact out of production anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say that's been out of production a while.
I got. And so, Gary, you say that the Surface 3 is out of production. I can edit that back in myself.
Some editing there.
Yeah.
Let's fix this. Yeah, so the Surface 3 is rumored to be out of production now. Yeah, so which is, I guess they might. Are they planning a replacement, do we think, or they just decided to go with the Surface Pro?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, the Surface 3 is. I mean, it was definitely more of a budget-orientated device, but still with the build quality. But it certainly, had kind of less features. It was the kind of Atom-based processor, wasn't it? Rather than the kind of Core 5, Core 7, and M3 of the Pro line. So it'll be interesting. I wonder if it will morph into something else, particularly with. It must be quite difficult with so many OEMs now building Surface-like devices. One of the things that Microsoft always said with their hardware production, it would always be to fill a perceived hole in the market, or to kind of showcase the Windows experience. And I'm not sure necessarily if the Surface 3 is necessary to do that anymore. But what I would still like to see is that the Surface 4 turn into more of the mini device.
No, the old Surface Mini.
Yeah, maybe running Windows 10 Mobile. But then the problem with that is
isn't that the Surface Phone?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's always the problem that if you build a Windows 10 mobile-based tablet, then you run into the app issue because you can't install desktop apps on it. Obviously, they could maybe do something like HP have done, but I can't imagine doing that for a consumer type device. But yeah, I think it would be nice to see a Surface 4 as like a kind of a more budget orientated Surface device, or as a companion device to a Surface Pro.
Yeah, I think a more budget-friendly version of the Surface would still be nice, but I could see if they decided not to do it, I can understand why, because of people like Huawei and others that are producing good pieces of kit now.
No, having said that, I've just found the pricing, and it's not as good as I thought it was, because it's not. They don't include the keyboard again, so they've taken a leaf out of Microsoft's book. So the base model is $699 for 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage with a Core 3. But you have to pay another $129 on top of that for the keyboard.
Yeah, I think I heard something about it. Yeah, so that's quite expensive then, isn't it? When it all
Yeah, when you add the two bits together, particularly with the dollar going to pound at the moment, it starts getting really expensive. So I think that's a bit more pricey. I mean, and they even have a Core M7 with 512 gig of internal storage and 8 gig of RAM for $1,599.
Wow.
Which,
So, perhaps there is a market for quality hardware on a budget for Windows, and
there is. Yeah,
I still think there is a market for a lower price Surface. Although maybe the way that I think, I'm not sure we mentioned this last week, Microsoft could do it is doing the Apple way, where they don't have a lower spec device as such, but their entry level product is last year's device.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be selling off all the stock of Surface 3 if they were going to do that.
Maybe the Surface 4 is the budget, and the Surface 5
yeah, that would make sense. Yes.
Here's a completely wild theory. I'll trademark it now in case it comes true. What if the Surface 4 becomes just a continuum device to go with the Surface phone?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, like the next whatever it's called, next community one. Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah, and like the HP, they've got a laptop style, which is basically just a dumb terminal for Continuum.
Yeah.
Possibly. There's plenty of opportunities out there.
Especially if the Surface Phone happens to be an Intel device, or it's unlikely to be an Intel device, but an x86 device of some sort.
Yeah, but it won't be an Atom, will it?
No,
because that's certain ones of those. The spec one is disappearing, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's certainly not like your great grandfather's Atom.
But I guess it could be a Core M chip in a phone. There's no reason why they couldn't do that.
No, definitely not. No.
Yeah. They certainly didn't reveal any of this during Panos Panay's live stream of the Surface factory, not factory, but design lab.
Yeah, they didn't reveal anything
apart from potentially his band.
Yeah, maybe.
Did you see that? I mean, he had a white band on, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And there isn't a white one in the current.
There isn't, no.
Yeah.
So whether that's a prototype or the next gen one.
Yeah, I read a description of that video, part of the video, and it was something like that. He kind of rolled his sleeves up and then kind of sheepishly rolled them back down again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I haven't seen it myself, but
yeah, you can see it. Yeah, it's pretty obvious when he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I just want a new Surface device so I can watch Panos reveal it, because I always like watching his presentations.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, theoretically, would you an event? Well, a year would be in October, wasn't it? But that's the rumor is, of course, that we've mentioned before, is that will be the year after. That will be into next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether or not they're going to hold off the hardware releases till the Redstone 2 release will be interesting. It's I mean, it certainly would be a gap, but then at the same time, do we need new devices every year?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I wasn't here a couple of weeks back was I was having dinner with Kevin Gallo, the head of development at Microsoft. And one of the things he said in public, not the mic, they don't drop it. But this is really, really, really interesting, because one of the things he said in public the next day was that they, hardware-wise, they are going to possibly reveal things 6 months in advance, because there's no point in them trying to keep them secret, because it's like a sieve there. Everything just gets out the door as soon as they mention it.
I mean, it even happens with Apple now, isn't it? The new iPhone details usually leak well in advance.
Yeah.
It's something that never happened these days.
Yeah. So I think that was quite an interesting conversation.
Which is maybe points to what we talked about last year, which was the last week or the week before, the Project Scorpio, the next Xbox. That's exactly what they've done, isn't it? They've pre-announced effectively.
Yeah. So. And that one gives people a chance to get the software right and move the stuff on before it's actually physically out there. Trying to avoid another repeat of the Windows Phone release.
Yeah. Now, just to finish off, I just done a quick check on. Do you remember the Pebble we talked about a couple of weeks ago?
Oh yeah,
Pebble 2 and the Pebble 2 Time. Do you know what the total is now?
I haven't actually looked for a few days.
There's 32 hours to go as we record, so by the time this comes out, it's finished. 12.145 million.
Yeah, that's it's slightly less unexpected, but I think what's happened is that certainly market uncertainty in the last week's had an effect. I know a lot of people have withdrawn their pledges because it's suddenly got very expensive. But
they were what their goal was 1 million, wasn't it?
yeah. I mean, they're well over their goal, and I think, and they haven't. It's not like last time where they had some really good last minute things to tempt people in to spend that little bit extra money. But yeah, that's still good. I mean, it hasn't moved up much since last week, but it's still very good. It's still going up though. I'm looking at it now; it's ticking over nicely. So a few thousand every couple of seconds. That can't be bad, can it?
I also, I just wanted to mention a bizarre Cortana experience I had at the weekend. So I had to go and pick up my youngest from a party. One of his friends from school was having a party, and kind of set off thinking, oh, I'll just, I'll start driving, then I'll get Cortana to set my destination and give me guidance. So I said, hey Cortana, and it responds, and then I said, get me directions to Planet Bouncing Corby. To which she responded, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Get directions to Planet Bouncing Corby. And it did that 3 times. So it clearly understood exactly what I said because it read my phrase back to me exactly word for word. But no, she didn't understand get directions.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So I basically had to pull over to the side of the road and just manually.
Actually, before we go, just how have you got a new build on the Xbox now of Cortana?
I got a new build on the 24th, I think it was. I haven't used Cortana on it, but I did sit down on Friday evening to watch some Now TV, only to find that the Now TV app is broken on the preview build. So you can imagine how popular I was in our household.
Not.
Yes.
And that's the exact reason why I haven't put it on mine.
Yeah,
I've got the invite now,
Yeah.
but I just haven't put it on. But
it's a good excuse to go and buy another Xbox.
Yes.
Just to test it out on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it is mentioned in the release notes. It's right down the bottom.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I say the problem. As always, I say I opted into this, so I take full responsibility. But of course, once you're in the Xbox with it set into standby mode, will automatic update.
Yeah.
So it's not like you get to read the release notes and go, yeah, okay, I'll update to it, or no, I won't.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, with the Xbox operating systems, it won't connect to Xbox Live unless it's running, if there's an update outstanding. So you kind of stuck. But yeah, I accept it. That's what I signed up for. So I will say positive things about the Now TV Twitter account. They did actually respond back to me and said, look, this app isn't supported on the preview program. So it always makes me feel that Twitter's more useful than just the general chatter that goes on when companies really use it to provide support. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll let you carry on testing it then, and you're taking one for the team then.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I was listening to Entertainment 2.0, which obviously had the hipster on, which was good to hear him back. But it was interesting hearing Josh talking about the same thing. That you get this bizarre thing. You kind of say "Hey Cortana," and it actually prints up the word "Hey Cortana" on the screen. So it's I haven't had the experience where it actually searches for "Hey Cortana," but it does pop up followed by your question. So it's frustrating that it is so kind of unfinished at this late stage. You would have thought it would be with it being Cortana, it'd be a lot further along the lines.
Yep. Well, we had this discussion a few months back. Probably just a few months back, a month or so back, didn't we? About context with Cortana and how it worked, and we hoped they get it right, and it doesn't sound like they have yet.
No. The one thing I will say, which I think I mentioned last week, how one of the most frustrating things for me was how anything it didn't understand just resulted in a web search, which isn't really what you want on the Xbox. You might want that on a phone or on a PC, but really on an Xbox, if it doesn't understand, you kind of want it to ask you what you wanted. But that is now called out in the release notes that is a known issue, that misunderstood commands that aren't understood result in a web search. So clearly they know that's not the experience people want.
Well, I think that's just about time we've got for this week's show.
No
next
build
Tuesday.
news yet.
No build news, but by next Tuesday when we record the chat room, or Thursday when to release the show, I'm sure we'll have
we'll have 10 builds to discuss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably even have a build by the time the show goes out. I've got a feeling we'll have one overnight, or if
Yeah,
not,
I think so. Yeah.
tomorrow night. So, look, the best way to follow those is you can follow me at IS Dixon on Twitter. Jason, where can we follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace.
Gary, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Gary with 2 R's WMA, or at fascinatingtech.com for the magazine. And we have got a new issue coming out in a couple of weeks' time. With great
Excellent.
stuff in it.
Keep an eye out for that. So I'll keep an eye out for that. Keep out for new builds and everything else. You can you can follow along, and you can look back at the videos that I've done of Windows 10, right back to the very first previews, and see how it's changed since the early days. So we'll be back next week. So thanks to Holiday Boy for joining us in the chat room. He's sticking it out with his 950 XL. So good
Good
for
man.
you. Good for you.
man.
Yes. And we'll be back next week. So until then, we'll see you there.
Take care.
Cheerio. Bye bye.